Alright, you impatient little heroes. Steve will continue story. This next part, this part is kind of big, fancy, emotional, very dangerous. And as always, Steve barely survived. Again. So, this is what happened after Steve left that creepy cathedral with Longshot, the channel surfing bird. Steve walked out of the forge with the blood sword humming on Steve's back like angry beehive. After Longshot tells Steve sword can't be destroyed because Lord Death is dead, yeah, Steve very unhappy rat. Sword heavier, colder, whispering little things like, "Hold me, use me, we can finish what Death started." No thank you. So Steve decides smartly, which is rare, to get rid of the sword. Steve hears rumors about forest wolves, big wolf warriors who guard the living forest. Heard they're strong. Heard they're noble. Heard they possibly dumb enough to take cursed sword from Steve. So Steve thinks, perfect, Steve dump problem. Walk away happy. You know how that turned out. Steve reaches edge of living forest. Nice trees, pretty moss, peaceful vibes, and BAM! Wolf riders everywhere. Big dire wolves, size of horses. Teeth like daggers, saddles made of bone, and riders aiming spear at Steve's face. Steve put paws up fast. Wait! Steve friendly! Steve not taste good! Steve high in anxiety calories! One wolf growls. Another tries to sniff Steve's pocket for snacks. Wolf nearly bites Steve's tail. Very rude. Then everything got silent. Wolves stopped moving. Riders straighten up. Forest air gets cold. That's when Steve realized someone important just arrived. Steve looks up. There she is. Silveraria Winterfang, the Wolf Queen herself. Standing on a branch thicker than Steve's whole body, high above. Armor gleaming like moonlight on ice. Hair flowing all pretty in pink blue. Her direwolf beside her, giant thing, silent, watching Steve like snack with legs. Silveria just stands there like painting come to life. Then, in one movement, she mounts her direwolf and then leaps off the tree. Boom! They land like feathers. Steve squeaks like a little idiot. Steve not believe physics of that jump. Steve pretty sure gravity took that day off. She walks towards Steve. Calmly, steady, no fear, no sound. Her wolves bow their heads, riders kneel. She is queen, absolutely. She stops directly in front of Steve. Steve gulping. Try not to pee. Sword humming louder. Then she tilts her head, inhales, and says very quietly but very sharp, "You smell of Goldurus." Steve frees. Oh no! Steve stepped into marriage drama. Steve hates marriage dramas. Steve says, Steve didn't steal from husband. Steve never met husband. Steve not even like tigers. They're too big. Silveria ignores all that. Her eyes behind that helm soften. Just a little. She tells Steve, Goldurus of red stripes, my husband, vanished in the sunken desert, and you carry his scent. Steve thinks to himself, wolves and tigers used to hate each other. Two leaders getting married? That's... wow. Steve will not say anything. Steve loves his limbs. So Silveria looks at the blood sword, doesn't touch it, doesn't flinch, just stares at Steve. She tells Steve, "If you know my husband, you will tell me." So Steve says Steve knows nothing, except maybe everything if you don't kill Steve. Silveria slowly kneels down, looks Steve in the eyes. "Find what became of him. Truth, nothing more. Do that, and I will take the sword." Steve internally screaming. Steve just wants nap. Steve not detective, but Steve says, "Yes, of course. Steve very brave. Steve find husband. Easy job. Very easy." So Steve goes towards the sunken desert. Heat hits Steve like giant oven. Sand shifting like something alive. Desert whispering. Weird shadows moving in dunes. Steve already hates it. Then Steve meets them. The striped tigers. But hollowed. Faster, stronger, smarter. Dead eyes glowing faint yellow. Moving with terrified precision. Steve tries sneaking. Tigers appear behind him. Steve dies. Steve comes back. Tries hiding in sand. Tigers leap 20 feet. Steve dies again. Third time, Steve tries bribery. Steve has snacks. Tigers bite Steve's arm off, and Steve dies again. Fourth time, Steve tries running. Tigers outrun Steve, kill Steve, and outrun Steve again just to flex. After many deaths, Steve lies in sand crying. Steve done. Steve cannot fight hollow cats and heat stroke. Finally, Steve realizes the whole tiger clan is hollowed. Goldrich must be too. No way for Steve to get close enough to confirm without being shredded. So, Steve does smart thing. Steve gets up. Drags Steve's self back to the living woods. Steve limps up to Silveria and collapses dramatically at her feet. Your tigers, they're all hollowed. Fast ones, strong ones. Steve died so many times, Steve punch cards almost full. She stands still, silent. Wind moves in her hair. Her wolf lowers its head. She whispers, "Golders." For a long time, she doesn't move, doesn't speak. Then she turns to her riders. "Prepare the heartwood. The blade will sleep there." Then she kneels next to Steve. "You brought truth. That is enough." Steve sniffles. "Steve did good." She places his hand on Steve's shoulder. "You survived. That is good." Silveria leads Steve deep into the living woods. Roots twist like veins. Tree pulse faintly. Forest whispers like breath. At the center is an ancient pit. The Heartwood, where curses go to sleep. Silveria takes the blood sword from Steve's shaking hands. Sword screams softly. Forest answers with a low rumble. She places the blade into the pit. Roots curl around it. Dirt folds gently. Forest swallows sword whole. Her direwolf curls around the sealed earth, guarding it. Silveria whispers to Steve, "Sleep now, blade of endings. The forest will watch your dreams." And, for the first time in centuries, Steve feels light. Steve walks out of forest, humming happily. No more cursed sword. Steve free rat. Steve reaches Ho's first shrine. And then, the carrier crow descends. Steve drops to knees. "Fine! Steve, surrender!" Steve too tired to run. Crow grabs Steve. Throw Steve in carriage. And take Steve straight to the Hallowed Asylum. And that, my friends, is how Steve ended up chained here telling you the whole story. So, that's how Steve met Wolf Queen. That's how Sword finally got buried. And that's how Steve learned never to trust desert tigers or destiny. Now, who wants to hear what happens next?